first. So I'm Sheng Shi from Endowers. I'm the personal finance lead. So I work closely with the community, be it the bloggers, as well as partners like Rui Ming and Wei Chun from the Work Salary Man. So I'm a licensed financial advisor. I have worked in CapitaLand and in capital data centers in my previous careers. And I joined Endowers because I feel strongly that CPF should be invested. Yep. Rui Ming, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm one half of Work Salary Man. The other half is Wei Chun. He's an illustrator. I'm the guy who mostly writes the stuff. If you're asking questions on IG, I'm the guy responding. I started off as like a copywriter in advertising. Then I went into content. I know like both of them are like slightly different. And I'm currently like creative lead at 99.co. It's an excellent real estate portal. Can I just shout out to my employer for a while?
Go ahead.
All right, sure. I mean, nowadays we talk about adding value to the company, right? And I want to add value to my boss. So I'm just gonna do a shameless plug. 99.co is one of the best ways to search for property online with over 100,000 people on its website. Compared to the competition, it has superior user experience and design. 99.co is also a company that stands for diversity and inclusiveness. You can follow 99.co for property news, updates, and insights. So you can follow the Instagram page at www.instagram.com/99.co.
Okay, so now I'm gonna do my plug-in. So do follow Endowers on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We also have a Telegram channel for those of you who don't know. So we post our insights articles as well as any newspaper articles that refer to us on our Telegram channel. So do search for Endowers through any social media because we want to reach out to people. And even if you are not really investing through us, we would hope that we can share whatever our educational content on investing and personal finance. Yep, let's get started. So guys, one more, just a reminder for those of you who have come in, do like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and also take a look at the descriptions below the video. So there's sign ups. There's also a Pigeonhole where you can ask your questions. Then yeah, I think we can get started. So I think I'll start off the presentation. This is a question I have often asked myself. Do we have to work hard to invest our money? There's this thing called a wealth equation. We have to earn our money, we have to save our money, then we have to grow our money, right? So for earning and saving, we are actually doing something hard for it already because we need to be active with our career, with our side hustle, right? And we also have to curb our spending inclinations. Do we really have to spend a lot of effort in investing as well? That is something that I've asked myself throughout my investment experience. And I think Rui Ming will also touch on that later on. So our investment experience, Rui Ming.
Oh yeah, sure. So I'm just going to share a bit about how I started on this whole investment journey. So I think when I just finished uni, right, I think it was like 2013, I saw my friend. He was a very successful trader, and he managed to turn, I think, 20,000 into 100,000, within a year. And I thought, wow, that's just crazy, I should start. So I opened a trading account, and then I followed him for quite a bit. But then I realized there's something different about him, like how come he managed to take such huge risk. And the type of trading he was doing was like CFD trading, like contract for difference trading. So it's highly leveraged trading. And what I realized separated me from him was that he actually came from a really, really wealthy family, and his dad just gave him 20,000. So yeah, it's a hard truth. And so this is where, nowadays the conversation is always about privilege, right? And this is where privilege comes in, he could afford to plonk in 20,000 and take huge risks on it. And, I was just shaking with $1,000. Where should I put it? And that was when I decided maybe I should do it the slow and steady way. Yeah, next slide.
Okay.
So yeah, obviously it's not 20,000, but I went to invest $200 into the STI ETF monthly, and over the years I slowly increased this to $500. So this is probably the most basic investment Singaporeans can. What did I write back? The most basic investment Singaporeans can have. Next slide. 2015, I tried buying some Singapore stocks. My total portfolio was around 20,000. So I did try like active investing for a while. I did monitor the market and so on and so forth. But I eventually gave up because like the gains were not a lot. And in 2017, I think like over the course of 2 years, I only made like $3,000 off this 20,000. Next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So like once bitten, but I wasn't sure the second time. I still went into, I still believe like, no, I still can try active investing. So I went to invest in US markets. After 2 years, once again, I realized it was not a time, but actually but this time, right, I plunked in like 100 grand into it, and I just bought and hold the stocks, and some of them actually made money. So it's around 20% by the end of 2019. So it's around like 10% per annum. But after that, I just decided that, hey, index investing was the way to go. Okay, next slide.
Hold on, Rayming. Let me just ask you a bit of a question. So you decided not to stock pick because you find that the time is not worth it, or what's the consideration behind that?
Yeah, I think I was just spending too much time like stressing every day, like logging in, like, oh my god, the stock, it went up 1,000, went up 2,000, and I just found myself like very unproductive, and it was kind of really stressing me out, yeah, at times. I think like one of the stocks that I have here, I think it's Baidu, the Chinese search engine. Wow, that's like down like 42% or something at the moment. I mean, for me, and I mean, after some time, I just realized that like, hey, this is too much stress. Like forget it. I'm just gonna leave like these stocks there as like the active investment chapter that I had in my previous life, and just move on to active investing.
Oh, so you still hold on to some of these stocks?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, just asking for the audience. Okay,
sure.
Next slide. Yeah, next slide, I guess.
Yeah, so 2018, started index investing, and now like I just absolutely focus on like my career and my freelance work. And the index funds that I buy are CSPX, which tracks the S&P 500, and as well as like the Vanguard World Index. And every time I have like 5K or 10Ks, right, I just put it into one of these funds.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so what's the key takeaway that you want to share with the audience before you go into our slides?
Yeah, I think that's later on. I mean, let's not spoil it. You can talk about yourself first.
Okay, sure. We can do that as well. So I started investing slightly earlier than Rayming. I started in 2011, right? So I have always been a saver in my life. So I think my parents have brought me up very well. I save all my ang pao money. I save all my allowance and the money that I earn from tuition and everything. So in 2011, when I started studying in business school, I have the opportunity to really put into practice whatever I learned in business school to active investing, right? So I started being a REIT and a SGX investor. So I stock picked on the Standard Chartered Bank online trading account. And at that point of time, they don't have any minimum commission. So I bought like $100 worth of shares for 20, 30 different companies. And I do all the analysis, go to AGMs. And I find that the process for me, it's a mixed bag, right? So sometimes you put in a lot of effort and you realize that it's not reciprocated by the stock market, right? The stock move in the other direction. But sometimes when you are very impulsive and very emotional, what happens is that your investment returns are actually very high. So I don't really like the process because I think I'm a Singaporean, right? I like to put in hard work and I see the results for it, right? But when it comes to uncertainty and not having a very strong correlation between effort and result, I just give up, right? And so that's what the key takeaway I have from my active investing phase of my life, right? So in 2013, I started passive investing because that's what I realized is the more textbook way of investing. So what I learned in school is that active fund managers are not able to beat the index that they are often benchmarked against, even before fees, right? So sometimes it's really very difficult for active managers to do it consistently. And what more us regular men on the street, right? When we don't have that so much time at hand, when we don't have so much expertise at hand. So that is the kind of conclusion that I made. I decided that average return is good enough for me. 7 to 9% is good enough for me, right? So I like textbook investing, I invested in global and local indexes. So that is the STI and some of the funds that Rui Ming has talked about. So that is 2013. Beyond that, I started to work. I work in 2 listed companies, Capital Data Centers and Capital Land, right? I accumulated more wealth through savings, right? And I realized that, sometimes when I buy key in certain trades, it doesn't go through at the price that I want, right? So gradually there is this pool of cash that's built up, and I don't invest it. And between 2013 to 2016, the stock market is rising very steadily. And what happened is that I get frustrated looking at that pile of cash not earning money, right? So I told myself that when there's a right opportunity, I will just abolish the concept of war chest. So I basically Brexit happened, and I just bought everything, just finished that 20K of cash into indexes again. And in 2019, I think that's the biggest change to my portfolio, I would say, right? Previously, I've invested my CPF and SRS in the STI. I don't really like to invest in the STI because I'm already working in an STI components company, right? And the link companies, they like to pay you high variable bonus. There's a big part of your remuneration that is already variable to the Singapore's performance. So I really want to get rid of STI from my portfolio. And when endowers appear, I just basically just sold all my STI for SRS at a loss, and I bought the funds that are available on endowers. And that's my investment journey.
Man, a lot of SMEs will be disappointed in you.
SMEs, but SMEs don't live in Singapore, right?
Right.
So,
sure,
yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so, Q&A for part 1, our investment experience. Let me take a look at Pigeonhole and see whether we have accumulated enough questions. Well, there are a huge amount of questions already. There's around 10 questions. I exaggerated. So there's 10 questions. I think why not let's just move on to the next stage. Guys, keep your questions going, right? Look at the description below. And follow the instructions below for the question so that we can facilitate the discussion more. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next part. Growing our earning potential. Rui Ming, to you.
Yeah, so I'd like to draw your attention back to like this comment that we made last year, and it says like, there's nothing passive about passive income. And I think this is like 100% true, because I mean, if you read, right, okay, let's assume your stocks, generate like a 4% return, right? Like let's just say you get 4% returns every year. If you have like 100,000, like 4% return is only $4,000. Like it can't feed you for a long time or whatsoever. So I really believe, right, we need to create this huge pool of income so that the passive income can start to work for you. And I'm talking about like, there's a lot of hard work involved to set up this passive income. And I think that was the point of the comic. All right, next slide. Yeah, so I think like a lot of like 20 years. I mean, I also used to be like that, I would think, I was able to turn like 10,000 into 100,000 within 4 years, through pure investment. And today I realized, like, not only does it take like immense skill, because like, honestly, how many people can do that? Next slide. And it also takes like immense risk. And I mean, back to the example of my friend who was like a trader, who could actually afford to take huge risks through CFD trading. I think the point I'm trying to make is that, okay, next slide, that people, right, literally afford risks. People with money can afford risks, and that is why the rich grow richer. Next slide. Yeah, so right now you're thinking like, oh, but what if I can't afford risk? And my argument would be, like earning stable income, right, is a risk-free way of getting capital. I know it sounds very like but a lot of young investors I see, like, they don't get it. They think I mean, they'll text me on IG. It's like, oh, I'm going to turn 20,000 into 300,000. Like, I'm like, how are you going to do that? Oh, purely through investment. And I feel like that's pretty unrealistic. Next slide. So let's say, right, you have less than 100,000, and let's just assume you can return 20% on your investments, which is it's pretty insane, you know, like most people can't do 20%. So if you look at, okay, and let's say you have 20,000, right? Like even a 20% on that 20,000 is just $4,000. But during this same period, if I can manage to increase my salary by like 1K every month, right, that adds up to 12K a year. And I think the question I ask people is like, do you think it's easier to, you know, be like a super top investor to get like 20% year on year, or is it easier to earn extra 1,000 every month? I mean, personally, I feel it's a lot easier to earn $1,000 every month. What do you say?
I think it's not so easy to get a wage increase, but definitely if you try to hustle out, you can pick up skills that will help you with your negotiation power, right? So I think from my personal angle is that it's a lot easier to have that kind of very short-term gain for investing, and you can see it quite quickly. But whether it's sustainable, as a earning increase, increase in your income, I think that it's very clear. It's easier to get a more sustainable increase in your income than through trading.
Yeah, and I do think like the risks to, you know, get 20%, right? It's not like a confirm, you know, get 20% sort of thing. You might even lose like you know, some money in the process. So, you know, not only is it like hard to achieve, it is also like not guaranteed. So in this case, when I have like less than $100,000, I would choose to focus on myself instead of spending a lot of time looking at my investments. All right, let's just go to another scenario. The next slide.
Okay.
So now, right, let's just say you have 100,000. I'm going to assume like, you know, 100,000 will be people in their 30s, you know, maybe 30s or 40s, you know. And once again, right, okay, so now you see, right, the playing field starts to level a little bit, you know. 20% on 100,000 is 20,000. But if you can increase the salary by 2K, right? And trust me, because like inequality is growing year on year, so the disparity between like the top tier and like lower tier of incomes is actually, you know, doable. So I mean, not that inequality is a great thing. I shouldn't have said that. Yes, yeah, but 24K a year, you know, compared to let's say 20,000 a year, still, you know, that still beats what you could possibly get from the stock market. Okay, now let's go on to like the next scenario. So let's just say you have 500,000, which I think if you're really young, you probably don't have this amount. I too don't have this amount. And a 20% return on 500 grand, right, will be $100,000, which is like a lot of money. Well, almost so. Yeah. And I'm guessing like around this age, you know, people will be in their 40s to 50s, and they will have to earn 5,000 more, you know, to get like 60,000 a month. So if there was a point that I would decide to do active investing, it would be when I have like, you know, 500,000, because it will start to make sense mathematically. And keep in mind, right now we're using 20%, which is really an insane rate of return where, I mean, like most people won't be able to get it. Okay, next slide. So I just want to point out, you know, like I think this is from like a Glassdoor, you know, like senior copywriter salaries in Singapore, which I think like I would have been if I stayed in advertising. But you know, right now 99.co is a wonderful place to be. Yes. So if you look at the top tier, right, the top 10% of people earn like 120K a year. The average copywriter earns 84K a year. That's like 36,000 difference between the top 10% on the average. So I'll make the argument, right? Instead of, you know, pursuing all these like small gains when you have like less than 100,000, less than 200,000, less than 300,000, use it to become better at your job. And I mean, instead of, you know, spending like maybe 20 to 40 hours like worrying about the stock market every week, because this will really accelerate, you know, how much you can invest in the beginning. Next slide.
Yeah, so maybe just to quickly summarize, it's
sure.
to be exceptional in your job, right? And rather than to try to be exceptional with investing, which is a lot more difficult.
Yeah. So if you go to the next slide, right? I mean, I just want to highlight like the disparity even more. Like, let's say now I am 30, how old am I? I'm 31 years old. Yes, let's say I'm 31 years old, which I am, don't need let's say. Yeah. And right now, let's just say I'm a senior copywriter. So there are people out there, right, who are associate creative director for copy. So they're earning like 13,000. So my point is that don't be the senior copywriter that fixates too much on stocks, but be the associate creative director who earns like 13 grand a month, and he just, invests passively. I mean, just to summarize my very long rant, next slide.
Okay.
As long as passive income, right, is less than what you can earn from your job, right, focus on your job.
Mm. Got it, got it. Yeah, I would probably just add on a bit on that. So now we see that a lot of people under the financial independence retire early movement, they are a bit worried that they retired too early, their investment returns have been doing very poorly, and their passive income is actually negative because of the financial losses. So yeah, I would even say that if your passive income is not, or rather your market returns of the returns of your investment is not like probably like 2 times of your whatever you're earning now, then probably you should be focusing on your job. That's how I see it. So just sharing a bit of my own thoughts.
So I think everyone out there thinks, they can be great investors, but like, I think like the top 1% of all investors, right? These are people who like live and breathe like investments. They have like Bloomberg terminal. They like monitor the market all the time. If you have to compete against such people, right, and also hold a full-time job, I mean, like, how are you going to compete? Why not focus on your job instead?
Absolutely agree with you, Raving. Yeah, so I have a slightly different way of looking at this. I segment our capital into 2 parts, right? So we have our financial capital and our human capital. So financial capital, all of us know, is the savings that we have, it's the stocks that we own, the bonds that we own, the house that we own, right? Net of mortgage. So it's normally lowest at the start of our career for most of us because we have our study loans, right? And it's the highest when we retire. Because if we assume that we have been accumulating our wealth as we grow older, our financial capital will be at the highest when we retire. Right. Whereas for human capital, we don't really think of it that way, but our human capital is highest in the mid of our career, right? It's something that we give in return for for our salary, right? So every second that we spend at work, we are actually every second closer to death. And also, we are exchanging our work experience for it, skills for it, and it's lowest when we retire. After we retire, we are not. We can be doing volunteering, but normally for most people, they just want to chill and enjoy life because they deserve it, right? It's the highest when we reach the peak of our career. So let's say, for example, you want to be like senior creative director that Raymond talked about. Then probably that's the peak of your human capital. So normally what I personally feel is that the efforts that we put into growing our career and our human capital will translate into career growth and satisfaction. Whereas for myself, when I put that time and effort and energy into investing, I find it's a lot of frustration because, especially for active investing, because there's no clear feedback from the stock market on whether we have done something right or whether we have done something wrong. Yeah, so there's 2 ways of looking at how our human and financial capital grow, right? So I think generally, as per what I shared just now, there's this 2 line, right? Financial capital, which grows over time. And then there's this human capital, which grows when we get promoted, when we pick up new skills, then it will drop later on as we age. So there's 2 ends of spectrum that I want to share with you guys. So someone who focuses on their career, like Rui Ming, right, actively hustle, pick up, do the work salary man and everything, he will be picking up skills along the way. And you can see that his human capital is actually growing faster than someone who is an active investor but a passive career manager, right? So his career growth will be faster, human capital will be growing faster. Even though in the short term, his financial capital is growing slower than the active investor, right? You see that long term his capital, overall capital, which is in gray, is actually growing more. So, and he's ending his career at a higher total capital figure. So this goes to a perspective, goes back to something very basic. When we have a larger base and we invest that larger base, naturally the returns in the absolute figure will be higher, right? So my suggestion for young people like Rui Ming and I is to invest more time in our and energy in our career instead, even side hustles, right? Trying to pick up new skills, trying to value add to society rather than through the stock market, because the stock market is really very efficient and very difficult for us to be able to consistently beat the market.
So I just want to add on, like I saw this graphic by, I think Alvin from Dr. Welsh, Alvin, great guy. Sorry to plug Alvin. Yeah. Anyways, he showed me a chart of like, how people with like different income, make their money. And one thing that I found out was that, the one thing that struck me was that, wow, business really is the fastest way to make money. It is not investments. Investments, in my perspective, it's kind of like a late game play. We did a comic about like comparing Dota to investments recently, and I think in the early game, right, you should focus on earnings and savings. But the thing about savings, like you can only cut like this amount. Like no one ever became rich from saving. Like collecting coupons or getting like the best cashback deals. So after you max out what you can save, you need to max out what you can earn. And only after you max out what you can earn, then you can go and invest that amount and wait for it to snowball over time.
Snowballing, yeah, I think that's the word, right? So growing your own human capital and letting your financial capital eventually snowball, and then you can let the power of compounding work for your financial investments, because your base is bigger. Yeah,
exactly. So imagine right now, right, you are like right now you are in like a ski resort or something. If you just take like a tiny snowball, right, and you just roll it down a hill, right, like chances are that snowball isn't going to be like very big when it reaches the bottom of the slope. However, if you kind of like make like a decent like head-sized snowball, by the time you reach down here, it will be like a lot bigger than the first snowball you first rolled.
Got it. Yeah. So great. Shall we take a look at the pigeonhole question?
Sure.
Yeah. It turns out that my TYS question is very good. What courses do you recommend to take to improve your earning potential? Rui Ming, why not you share first?
Well, actually, I think, okay, I'm mixed minds about it, because I do think there's a lot you can learn through courses, and there are also a lot of things you can learn outside courses. So let me just give you an example for myself. So I used to start off as like a pure features writer. So that means I would just write stuff in a magazine. And I think this was like 2008. Damn, I'm old. Yeah. So I think it was then I realized that professionals in the media, right, we need to diversify our skills. So what I did was like I went to pick up like video editing. I went to like learn Photoshop. And the interesting thing, right, is like I didn't pay like a single cent to learn this stuff. What I basically did was I went to YouTube. I went to like some tutorial websites, and I just religiously followed it, and like follow the video step by step in my free time. After that, I would try experiment to edit videos of my own, and then like I'll do it over and over and again until I became like a decent video editor. And same for what I did with Photoshop. Recently, as part of skills to learn, I've been learning how to speak better. I don't think I could have done this like speaking thing maybe like 4 years ago. I'll be like super shy and terrified. But I think the key here is just to practice it until you're damn good. It doesn't matter whether the course is paid or not. You just like do it, practice until you're fantastic. Shit, I sound like a motivational speaker. Yeah, but it really works, which is why it's a cliche. Cliches are cliches for a reason.
Got it. Yeah. So just doing it, right? Because there are so many free contents out there on YouTube. We are in a digital age, and everything people like to share stuff online for free, practically, right? So maybe I share a bit of the different view. I started off in my career really focusing more on the finance and investment side. So for me, the intuitive choice is really to take up CFA, right? So it's not really sponsored by my company. I just felt that I want to have some fancy title at the end of my name. So I did it. It's not, it's quite okay. I did it. I
Does it
guess
help on Tinder?
it doesn't help on Tinder. Sorry, I don't use Tinder anyway. So anyway,
okay.
Yeah, it doesn't impress people, sadly. Yeah, nice guy always lose. So anyway, back to the topic. CFA is helpful for me because I think there are some other things that I pick up that I don't pick up in business school. It helps, that title helps to some extent. And I think it gives me that, forces me to be disciplined with whatever I'm doing. So I guess how I'm different from Rui Ming is that I'm a very typical Singaporean lah. So if there's a course, I follow the course in a structured way. I finish it, I get a cert, I feel good about it. I feel that there's something to shout about it. I think Rui Ming is someone that's probably a lot more self-driven. In some sense, he cares more about the outcome than that paper cert. So it's a bit different. So I'm more of a paper cert chaser. So I went for that CFA. Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say like don't do a paper cert course, because like when you apply for a job, they will look at your qualifications. It just depends like where you apply to. If you want to go to like say a MNC, or like government, like they will most definitely look at your certs. But if you joining like a startup or SME or like starting your own business, right, you usually don't care that much about the cert. You just care like what value can you bring to the company. I feel like I should plug Nanaia Co again, but I'm just going to stop myself.
Got it. Yeah, so maybe just add on one point, right? So if you want to get a cert, but you don't want to pay so much for it, just go for one of the Udemy courses. So there's a lot of great courses that are available. For myself, I'm trying to take a digital marketing course on Udemy, and it's only like $16. Eventually, if you complete it, you can get Skills Futures credit for to pay for it, right? So there's a lot of good stuff out there, and this is the digital age. It's no longer like our parents, right? So we don't really need to physically go for a course and learn, dedicate time for it. So that's my recommendation. Find out what you're passionate about. Just go and do it. Yeah. Okay. So
oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to focus like on the fact that you shouldn't just, you should really follow your passion or what you're good at. Instead of following blindly like what everyone suggests. Like everyone said, oh, let's be data scientists now. Then 3 years from now, there are like 100,000 data scientists, and it's hard to find a job. You know what I mean? So it is much better to focus on something you're passionate about, something that's sustainable, instead of just chasing the trend at the moment. And I mean, those people who are great data scientists, right? They're just gonna kick your ass at it. So you just do what you are good at and what you care about. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's a few more questions. I'll take it. Sheng-Chi, are you eligible for HDB? Are you single? Question mark. Okay, so I'm very single. I'm not sure why are you asking this. My pay still allows me to be eligible for HDB. Yeah, so that's a very strange question. There's another question. What if you have limited savings, say $3,000 to $4,000 right now, and want to venture into investing? What would you recommend? Rui Ming, why not you take this one?
I would not venture into investing. I mean, right now in this climate with COVID-19, it's quite an uncertain future. I'm not sure about you, but 3 to 4K. Assume you spend like 1K a month. That is actually maybe just 3 months of savings. So I will actually save up more first, and I always use the number 12K because 12K is like a great gauge of like, or is it like around? It's between like 6 months to 1 year of expenditure. So I will save up to that amount, and then I'll invest like everything after that.
So to put it across, it's more like having your emergency fund ready. So because things happen, really sometimes none of us are expecting this COVID thing. And I think this is where, having a good financial plan, planning to have an emergency fund, having a stable career, all of this actually is a lot more important during crises. So Yeah, I totally agree with
Yeah.
you. Have a
It's
save
because
yeah.
yeah, because you just don't want to liquidate your capital at a loss. For example, let's just say I invest 10,000 today. The market goes down today, it's worth $8,000, and then like let's just say my laptop broke down, right, and then I have to fix my laptop, but I don't have the money. Then I will have to sell my uh, investments at 8,000, like making that 2,000 paper loss real to go buy the laptop, and then like there are no winners in this scenario. And I'm just gonna quote, like I think it's John Bogle. John Bogle says like buying high, selling low is an incredible difficult way to make money. Incredibly difficult way.
Mm,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. So let me just maybe take a few more questions. P1. Okay, what is the worst investment decision that you have made? Rayming.
Well, it's not technically a investment decision, but I did lend somebody like a four-figure sum of money, and I didn't get it back. So I mean, I didn't expect like, oh, it's a return on investment, but that's pretty bad. The other, I mean, if you want like more conventional money mistakes I've made, I guess like I I bought companies that I didn't understand too much in. I have this analogy, but I think Sheng-Chi won't like it that much. But I think a lot of people invest in stocks, right? The same way they invest in Pokemon. I mean, the same way they will play Pokemon. They'll choose like the Pokemon that are most recognizable. But are those Pokemon like necessarily good? No, they are not. And if you apply this approach to stocks, right, you can buy like all the big famous companies, but these famous big companies, right, they aren't necessarily great buys. Sometimes you just buy cost brand name, and that is one of the mistakes I've made, and I'm sure like many people will make for like millennia to come. If COVID-19 doesn't kill us all. Oh, I should have said that. Take it back.
Okay, yeah, so okay, that's a bit controversial, but anyway, the way I look at my worst investment mistakes, yeah, I didn't buy blue chips, right? So I like to buy those small caps, value plays, so deep value investing back in uni. So some of these companies I don't really understand what's going on, looking back, and eventually this company go into judicial management, basically meaning to say it's bankrupt, but now there's someone managing the company so that the shareholders are protected, right? So that is my worst investment in decision. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. After that, I just went straight on index investing and liquidate all my single stocks holdings. Yeah. Okay, let me just quickly scroll through some questions. Have you used peer-to-peer lending as, for example, Funding Society? What are your thoughts on peer-to-peer lending?
Yeah, so I think I would classify like peer-to-peer lending under like more what's that word?
Alternate investment.
Yeah, I think maybe like alternate investing, like up there with crypto. I usually advocate like no more than 5% of your total portfolio in. Oh, it's called speculative investments. So no more than 5% of your total net worth or portfolio.
Yeah, for me, I am a bit more controversial, so I don't really believe in like core satellite kind of portfolio. So if I go invest in anything, I'll just go all in on it. If I'm not happy putting in 20% with it, I won't put 2% in it. That's how I look at it. So for me, platforms like cryptocurrencies, like funding societies, peer-to-peer lending, I don't want to invest in it because I think it takes out a lot of my own time to monitor it, to understand it. So from that angle, my time, I rather use it on something else. So that's how I feel. Okay, anyway, guys, I think we can move on. Do again go down to the description below, take a look at Pigeonhole and ask us your questions so that we can interact with you, even though we are not seeing each other. Yeah, ask your questions. So and do follow and upvote the questions that you like so that we can take it on later. Okay, the importance of diversification. I mean, back to you.
Oh yeah, so basically, I mean, why I do index investing is because like I just want to have like a peace of mind. I just want to like put it there and like really don't care about it, which is why like I don't pick individual stocks, because like a company can be healthy one year and like some, hate to use the word, like black swan event happens, and suddenly like it is in danger of going bankrupt. So not to say Singapore, never mind. So I mean, if you look at it on the next level, right, can Singapore Airlines fail? Yes, possibly. Next slide.
Wait, hold on. I just want to chime in a bit on this part,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Yeah, so
Yeah.
for Singapore Airlines, I think for a lot of us, we always think that, oh, the company must really go bankrupt for us to lose money, right? The value must go to zero for us to really lose. But a lot of time, that's not what happens. Companies can be delisted at a price that you totally don't feel worth it, and you are forced to do it because the big shareholders that's what the big shareholders want. And that's what we have observed in a few companies on the SGX, for example, or even anywhere in the world, right? You look at SMRT, people say SMRT won't die one. Everybody need transport, right? Sure play a very good dividend play. But what happens is that there's a lot of maintenance issue. They are forced to delist the company, and people lose around 40-50% of their capital just because they invest in SMRT. So is it a good investment experience just because they didn't lose the full amount? Definitely not, right? So that $1,000, that $10,000 that you put into SMRT, the amount is half now. So it doesn't mean that the company wouldn't fail, means that it's a good investment. You can still lose 50% of your capital easily. And that's some of the issues that I personally feel strongly about when people look at it as a very black and white thing. It's not a very rational way of analyzing investments and looking at investment losses. Yeah. Rayming, back to you.
Yeah. Anyway, next slide. So Singapore Airlines, the chance of failure, is there, but like you just look at it, can Singapore fail? I mean, of course Singapore can fail. It's a small island nation. It's pretty fragile, but it's a lot less likely compared to SIA. Now just move on next slide. Yeah. So, and I think like when it comes to index investing, you always want to protect yourself, against like some of like the biggest risk. So can Singapore, US, and China fail at the same time? Like, I really don't think so. And if it did happen, it would have bigger problems. And every investor out there, whether you are investing in, I mean, if one day the S&P 500 became like $1, like there will be just these huge problems. You could even be like the fall of capitalism. And in that scenario, worrying about my money would be the least of my worries.
Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, I'm just gonna pull up like So I saw this morning. Like the average tenure of like a company in the S&P 500 in 1964 used to be 33 years. In 2016, it became 24 years. So what it tells us is that times are changing and things are becoming more and more volatile, and that means big changes can happen to any company at any time. And maybe in the future, a company stays in S&P 500 only for 5 years. So we do know companies like rise and fall, but the S&P 500 is generally more robust. It's a more robust structure than the individual companies. So for fast free investing, choose index investing.
Yeah, so I will touch on the next part. I have a slightly different, I have a slightly different way of looking at investing. And I always like to use this example of roulette, right? So for when you invest in passively, it's almost like betting on everything, or not choosing to bet. Rather, you are like the house in roulette. There's there's so many different choices. You just let people make their bet, and you just get the average return, right? Because the house always wins, right? It's not picking specific sectors, not picking specific countries, and just let the markets do its magic. So that's how I look at it, right? When you invest passively, you are not taking a position. You are just like the house, and you can be satisfied with that 7 to 9%. And I think for most people, they don't really want to actively manage their money. That 7 to 9% will be good enough to fulfill their retirement purposes. So maybe just some comparison between stock picking and index investing using the example of roulette, right? So for roulette, the random outcomes are short. There are a lot of random outcomes short term, but long term, you can mathematically plot out the different outcomes, right? So each different outcome, there's a 1/36 chance of happening. But for stock picking, it's very different, right? Short-term returns, you can attribute it to skills, you can attribute it to luck, depending on how you personally perceive it, right? It's an unrequited relationship. There's no feedback. You can only second guess yourself, and based on my own experience and how I look at things. So it's not easy for you to know whether you have done something right or wrong when you actively invest, right? But for index investing, returns and outcomes can be just attributable to the growth of the market, right? If we see market tank, we can understand that our world index tanked because, well, COVID-19 happened, and yeah, there's an expected loss, there's expected lower consumption, there's expected lower earnings in companies. So that is very intuitive, right? And that understanding actually help us build conviction in remaining invested. So again, on the next point, roulette, we know the odds, the odds are pretty much static, right? 1/36. But for stock picking, it's very different. Company and industry specific news are dynamic. So whatever investment decisions that you have made at the start of your, when you make the buy decision, that the parameters which make you make that buy decision might have changed, because there's always company news, specific news, industry specific news, competitor specific news, right? So how do you actually make a call on all of this new news? It's not so easy, right? But for index investing, it's a bit different, right? You have the mindset that everything is priced in, but long term, the economy will grow. So you just stay invested, invest in a fixed amount, and which goes to my last point, the house always win, right? If you passively invest over the long term, you should win, because the economy will grow, our population will grow, companies will grow, labor's productivity will increase. So, and if that doesn't happen, like what Rui Ming would have said, right? Capitalism has failed, and we probably have bigger worries on hand. Yeah, but for stock picking, that's a bit different, right? Because on average, by right, you are supposed to win, but at some point of time, people may give up on the investing process. At some point of time, you may have picked a high flux and you have lost everything. So there's a lot of chances where your capital may go so low that you can no longer recover. And that is something that, that's the big mistakes that we are trying to avoid when it comes to investing. So some very
it's like a periodic table, the worst.
Yeah. So yeah, Rui Ming hates this table, but I think it makes a lot of sense. He hates it for exactly the reason why we want to show it, right? There is the different colors in the top table actually shows the different asset classes out there, right? If you were to look at how they rank the returns, there's a highest return and the lowest return, right? So what happens is that you look through this mass of colors, you will realize that there's no pattern in it. There's absolutely no pattern in it, right? So it's very hard for us to make bets like overweight or underweight certain sectors or certain exposure just to get a higher return. It's just so difficult to do so. And the same happens for like exposure for developed markets, right? If you, again, different colors represent different companies, different countries, right? Different developed markets actually in this case. So again, there's an entire mass of colors of returns, right? So you won't see, for example, US outperforming in the long term, right? There are periods of time where the US do poorly. So instead of taking concentrated bets, why not just buy everything, invest passively? Yeah, that's the key takeaway that I hope that we are able to share. Okay, Q&A. Let me just, actually, Rui Ming, are you looking at the pigeonhole?
No, I'm not, I'm lazy.
Well, yeah.
You can look at it.
Damn, okay.
Just like my passive investing strategy. Yeah, okay.
Okay. You let the fund manager or the advisor do the hard work. That's smart. Okay, so I think that goes back to one of the questions. So Rui Ming, have you invested with Endowus? I think yes. He has written an article on Works Agreement about it, how you invest in CPF.
So I've invested $13,250 with Endowus. Currently it's down, it's currently down like I think $1,000 plus. Yeah, I mean, I accept it as like the risk of long-term investments, because the market will rise in the long term, and it's just a waste of time fussing over it.
Yeah. So maybe let me also share a bit on my investment with Endowus as well. So I've invested $80,000 through Endowus. It's largely my CPF money as well as my SRS monies. So what happens is that I also lost quite a fair bit of money. I think at the lowest point of the market, I actually lost around $15,000, right? And I think that is the way it is, because we are buying everything, and everything meaning everything in the market, right? Being globally diversified. And when that happens, being a passive, more of a passive allocation company, we don't try to outperform the market. We give the assurance to our customer that we are the lowest cost possible, and we structure the portfolio in a diversified manner. So yeah, everything is within expectation. Yeah, hopefully, Endowus lowers its fee in the future. Yeah, just saying on behalf of the audience. Yeah. So next thing, what's the best way to buy S&P 500 ETFs in Singapore? Rayming, why not you just share a bit on that?
Yeah, I think it's to buy like an Irish domicile index fund. So I mean, like those two I shared just now, CSPX and VWRD. Oh, S&P 500. So it's just CSPX. I think there's another option which I can't remember at the moment. But okay, basically, you just want to look for something that is listed on the London Stock Exchange, because there is less tax compared to when you buy that stock on the US stock market.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with what Rayming said. It's very important that we minimize taxes, even though maybe the expense ratio for a US listed ETF is slightly lower, right? So now with the proliferation and growth of the UCITS ETF in Ireland, or rather on the London Stock Exchange, it's actually very cost efficient to invest in S&P 500 ETFs through them, right? It's only like 0.07% in terms of total expense ratio, and CSPX is a great way. The other one is, if I'm not wrong, it's called VUAA. So it's you should try to get the accumulating share class, because dividends that you get, you have to reinvest it. It's a pain, right? There's more transaction costs when you reinvest it. So I'm not a fan of dividends. Shoot me, guys. I'm not a fan of dividends, and I find that it's more efficient just for your wealth to accumulate and minimize transaction costs. Yeah. So I want to start invest. Okay, so I think this is a great question. I want to start passive investing, but I'm confused about how to choose among the different index funds. What resources will you recommend to gain more knowledge to make this decision? Okay, so I'll plug this in, guys. So if you have signed up through Eventbrite, later on I'll send you an email about index funds, right? So keep a lookout for it. Follow us on Endowus Insights. We share a lot more on passive investing and personal finance. So of course I think Google is your best friend. That's a very generic answer, but Endowus Insights is one way for you to get some idea on how to look at investing. Rayming, do you have any that you would like to share?
I mean, you can just go to the WokeSalaryman.com and just click the Woke Salaryman way of investing, and like really, like if you want to do passive investing, like it is that simple. Just click it, just read it, and then just start. You can start off like something as simple as like STI ETF, which Sheng-Shi hates. Then after that, when you save enough money, you can move on to the more global ETFs that have like slightly more cost. Yeah. I also actually want to like highlight some comments like on YouTube. I mean they're asking like how come we don't talk about like the numbers and stuff about when it comes to investing. So I think something I want to highlight is like this is a passive investing webinar. I mean, if you are looking for like active investing stock picks, right? Maybe Endowus or the WokeSalaryman aren't the right people to go to, because because we are huge believers in passive investing. So I mean, not to say that active investments are wrong, but maybe this is just the wrong platform, and there's a right time and right place for everything, and this is not it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Rayming. So to be very fair, I mean, maybe I hold a fancy title, maybe I studied in finance before, but I have not actively invested for 6-7 years at least, right? So for me to comment on how to find out whether a stock is overvalued or undervalued or not, I think it's not very fair for me to make that kind of it's not very fair for me to make that kind of comment, because it's not so simple, right? And I have not actively invested for a long time. The concepts I can understand and explain, but I believe that there are other platforms that is more suitable to have this discussion. Okay, there's one that's quite fun. How much have you made from investing, Ruiming?
Wow. How much? I do think it's maybe right now, maybe like 30, I would say like 30K, like low five figures.
Low five figures.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the same. I think it's around the same amount for me. Probably like 30 or 40K. I think at some point of time I almost wiped out all my investment gains that I've made over the years because of COVID-19. But I would say that a large part of my investment returns is not because I'm good at stock picking, but I literally all my money, right? So I don't keep a war chest, right? Investing is, especially if you're a passive investor, your investment returns will be how much money you have allocated to get at 7 to 9%, right? It's just math, basic arithmetic, right? So I don't think it's really nice for us to talk about how much we have made, because it's not really relevant. And I think for passive investors, it's really not relevant how much we have made, because we are not here to show off that we are very good at investing. We just want to get on with life and work on other things. And
Yeah.
okay, I think that go ahead.
No, I mean, I think it's fine, like the question asked, because I mean, obviously, people are here to know that they can make money through passive investing. But I think what we're gonna highlight is like this, especially when you're young, this won't be the main way for you to make money. If you were like 50s, 60s, you're some like angry old uncle with like 1 million in the bank, yeah, sure, you investments will be the main way you make money, because your earning potential, touch wood, if you didn't go to any skills future courses and stay relevant, would have been irrelevant, and your earning power would have decreased. So, but for young people, like really, that won't be the way you make money. Okay, for example, I have like 150,000 on the stock market right now, and most of these 150,000 like didn't come from investments. They came from working hard, saving money, upskilling, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. So most of my money is also came from savings and what I earn from my salary. So yeah, it's not that relevant. I think going to the next question, is it okay if we rely solely on robo-advisors such as Endower, Stashaway, AutoWealth, etc., to free up time for other purposes in life? Wow, this is a tricky question. Maybe I take it first, then Ruiming, you give your contrarian views on things. Okay,
Sure.
if my personal view is that we should be the CFO of our lives, CFO/CEO of our lives, right? We have to take personal responsibility with our money, right? And as a CEO/CFO, right, we may want to outsource certain part of the work, but we should understand like enough to go and question the person that we are outsourcing the work to on why they are doing things in a certain way. Right. So this is the part that I think people, I think it might be a bit controversial, right? Is it okay that I trust someone completely or not? I'm a kind of a control freak. So even if I were to outsource certain part of the work to Endowers, right, I do question Sam, my CIO, on some of the decisions that he made with his investments, right? Similarly, we would love if our customers be able to question us for our investment philosophy, question us why are we not doing certain things. So in that sense, I think it's important for everybody to know why you're investing through the robo platform and whether their investment philosophy is aligned to you, right? So just now Ruiming mentioned something about the UCITS buying through UCITS funds and UCITS ETF, right? So that is something I feel is very basic, that somehow other platforms, maybe they have other considerations. They don't do UCITS ETF. Instead, they choose the more expensive US ETF instead. So having that ability to shortlist platforms, understand their investment philosophy, actually help us stay invested better. Like you will also be a responsible outsourcer of work to the different platforms. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think like Xingxi will hate my reply, but like I do think like the best option is always to DIY yourself. I mean, like you can buy. I mean, like I said, you can buy like CSPX, you can buy VWRD, IWDA. That's another one. That should always be your first choice. But I also recognize that sometimes, right, like people just can't make the emotional decision or the emotional leap to start investing. And I totally understand. Like I've been there, you know, like the first $500, the first $1,000, like even like the first $10,000, it's just so hard to put down. And sometimes you just really need a robo advisor to break it down, you know, into small bits. Like I mean, when it comes to like, and I mean, as in, it's kind of initiate like a savings plan, you know. So the dollar cost average in every month, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. So I mean, okay, let me just move on from this question, because like I think I saw a question just now, which is like DCA versus lump sum investing, like which one is better, right? So I do think in the long run, right, like lump sum investing is always more efficient because there's less transaction fees. However, there's also the risk that people don't start because the lump sum is it's just too much, you know. Just putting 10, 20K down to buy and hold is a huge decision. Like most people don't even spend that amount of money on like a regular basis. So I feel that there is merit in both. In DCA, you kind of like force yourself to go in bit by bit. So both are valid investment strategies.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe let me just go back slightly with the slides. There's this session that we will have 2 weeks later with Geraldine and Jason. So they'll be sharing about focusing on human capital over COVID-19, right? So yeah, we don't just talk about endowers in general in our webinar, right? So I think this will be some topic that is very relevant to some of the younger audience that we have today. Yeah, do sign up in the link below and check it out. Yeah, it's a webinar. There's no very little commitment from your side, whether you attend or not. If you don't like the content, you can just drop off. Yeah. So okay, shall we move on? It's getting a bit late. Yeah. So I just don't want to hold up people's time. Right,
Sure,
discipline.
sure. Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Who's going? Who has the first slide? Oh yeah, it's me.
You,
Okay, yeah.
you always have the first slide. Yeah.
All right. So I mean, I spoke to Alvin from Dr. Wealth. Like he's a good friend of mine. Like, and I think one thing he always say, like, being a successful investor is not about knowledge, but more about temperament, you know. And this also, I mean, even though Alvin is an active investor, this also applies to passive investing, because like the way I mean, the stuff I suggested, right? Buy CSPX, buy like index fund, and just hold, right? It's really simple, but you need to know, like, simple does not mean easy, because this is the strategy you're stuck with, you know. And just sticking to it really takes like a lot of discipline, like a lot of guts. I mean, first of all, you have to fight like the greed to make like quick bucks with huge risk. So for example, like one day somebody tells you, hey, why not you liquidate all your index funds, you know. I found a way to buy 9 properties with no money down. And then like but you have to attend like a $4,000 course first. And then like, you know, the person, oh shit, you know, why not I just do it the fast way, you know. I liquidate my investments, I go to put in that. So I mean, that is definitely like a risk you need to, like, this definitely a risk you need to consider. And which is why like simple does not mean easy. And I think it's like to fight all like the market noise, you know, like there always people saying, oh, there's a yield curve inversion, the world is ending next year, you know, the markets will drop to zero, everything's like a dead cat bounce and something, or like, you know, is it dead cat bounce? Yes, that's how I say it. Yeah, but the point is, if you are a passive investor, you need to hold through and like power through all this like market noise, because these are the people who are actively investing. It's a different strategy. I mean, if you're an active investor, like, sure, you know, you can you should be monitoring the markets to always make the right decision. But if you are not, and you always and you really need to find a way to resist all these people, you know, telling you you're wrong, why are you doing this is the wrong way to do it. Next slide. Yeah, and once again, I just want to go back to my previous point. Like, if you do any sort of investing without a lot of capital, you will never get any far, you know. But yeah, next slide. But the thing about, you know, creating capital is like, it is so hard. You know, you have to work smarter, work longer, more than other people. You might even need to work on weekends. Sheng Shi just now said like the typical Singaporean things like working hard equates to success. I'm going to tell you like that is so false, because there are just so many people working 13-hour jobs and earning, you know, earning one salary. So you will also need to find ways to upskill. You need to find a side hustle. You will need to network extensively, and you might even need to work on weekends to actually get that capital that will be large enough for you to passive invest. And I think like this is the one thing that's preventing like a lot of people from actually accumulating wealth, especially when they are especially when they start from zero. I mean, never mind those people with like rich parents and give them like a fortune or anything. But if you start from zero, you really need to get your capital up. If not, like you can just forget about building wealth like through like a single salary. I mean, like this is just the hard truth. So if you move on to the next slide, like I think passive investing needs, you know, discipline investing, you know, discipline to earn money, and also discipline to spend money. When people are like buying cars and other like liabilities, you need to really like find a way to hold it in and not give in to those urges. And you add all this together, I think it gives you wealth. Simple formula, not easy to follow.
Yeah. It goes back to the start of whatever I discussed at the start of the presentation, right? The wealth equation, earning the money first, then not spending too much of it, then letting it grow by investing it, right? So I think maybe just to somewhat summarize today's presentation, especially for staying business, right? A key pitfall that people have is not having a proper budget, right? They spend more frivolously. They don't stick to a certain budget for their food, a certain budget for their clothes, etc. Right? So one way is to really do a proper budget. There's nothing much to do now anyway, right? Why not review your spending, do a proper budget, adhere to the pay yourself first concept, right? That's one way. The other way is to another pitfall is that people try to beat the market. Right, they spend time timing the market, they spend time stock picking, and it may we always have the inclination to be a hero, right? We want to show off to our boyfriend, girlfriend that we are smarter than Sheng Shi and Rui Ming, right? I can get a 30% return, I can get a 40% return. Sure, great. That maybe we all have the inclination to be a hero, right? But perhaps the better way is to limit your stock picking to a certain percentage of your portfolio, review periodically if the time and effort is worth it. Because end of the day, we want to be efficient people, right? There's so many things for us to do, family commitments, personal growth commitments. So is investing and stock picking the best way to do it or not? I would say probably not. But if you want to do it, go ahead, try. And yeah, you can review it later on, right? As long as you commit to a certain percentage of your portfolio to it, then you should be all right, right? The last part, yeah. Go ahead, Raymond.
Yeah, I definitely think, you know, like active investing is a way to, you know, to generate wealth, but it's just not the most efficient way. I think what I've learned, and like I think what we always try to tell people on Hooks, man, like this is the most efficient way to do it. Sure, there are like hundreds of other ways, but like if you are like a broke 25-year-old listening to this webinar right now, like focusing on earning power, being like super committed to long-term index investing, this is the most efficient way and has the least risk to actually build wealth.
Yep. So yeah, the last part, I think Raymond sort of touched it a bit. When you're busy with life, when you're hustling, focusing on your career, right? Just do a regular savings plan on your preferred platform, right? Use a convenient platform that serves all your needs, and I think Endowus actually serves the need best because we offer CPF, SRS, and cash investing across all different sources of wealth, right? And we try to make sure that you have no excuses not to invest through us. Because especially if you're lazy, you know, you don't want to go wait in the bank lines, you don't want to fill out paper forms, you want everything to be populated. And why shouldn't, I think people are right to demand of it. Why do you want to meet someone face to face to do it and be pressurized or feel uncomfortable, right? So what we want to do is to provide people a digital experience similar to how you buy clothes online, right? But then again, it's very different because investment is something that you hold on for a very, very long time, probably the rest of your life. But when you buy a coat or you go for a $10,000 holiday, you know exactly what you're going for and you expense it off. You're happy with it, right? But for investment decision, it's a long-term commitment. And at Dowers, we fully understand that point, right? So this is how we try to keep your investment safe. This is why we also try to spend more effort in sharing our investment philosophy so that you feel comfortable keeping your money with us and being advised by us on your investments. So yeah, everything is digital. We go through MyInfo to help you populate certain information. There's also PayNow for you to send your money efficiently to us. So it's a very, very efficient process, right? So if you want to understand more about our most compelling product, which is CPF, in my opinion, the most compelling product, then please sign up for the webinar next week in the link below, right? So we share how we are giving the best exclusive products from Endowers. And I think a lot of people don't realize that we brought in the S&P 500 unit trust for CPF members. And before Endowers, there's no such options available. And in 2017, I actually wrote to the Straits Times as a regular Singaporean, right, dying to invest my CPF, complaining about the lack of options to invest my CPF, lack of low-cost diversified options to invest my CPF. Right, so I think whatever Endowers and my founders have been doing is something special that is different from other platforms because we are really focusing more about the pain points of regular Singaporeans, even though they may not really feel that pain point, right? So that is what we are trying to do. Yeah, and Rui Ming, do you have any contrarian view to share about Endowers?
Not about Endowers, but I mean, like, once again about index investing. Like, I mean, I heard this quote recently. You know, every bear market is the same. Every bear market is different. Every bull market is the same, and that means like every crisis is different. And you know, for the longest time, people have been saying like the world is going to end. I mean, when the Great Depression happened, when World War II happened, everyone was saying, "Oh shit, this will change everything." You know. The world is going to be different after this. Capitalism will fail. They say it during like SARS, during like the Gulf War, during like the Great Financial Crisis. But like more than 50 years on, like here we are. You know, the system just keeps. The system is still around, and I don't think it will be going away anytime soon. Mostly because like society is so unequal, and the people at the top with all the wealth, right, will make it extremely hard for the not so wealthy to change the system. So this is unfortunate, but it's also true. Why not benefit from it instead of being a victim?
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at things, I guess. I wouldn't have be able to phrase it that way, but okay, yeah. Let me just quickly scroll through the question so that we try to more or less answer some of it. Because thanks viewers for putting the time to vote for the questions and also to ask the questions. We'll try our best to answer all of the questions, right? I think we pretty much answered all of the one at the top. So now there's this one on Xingxi, are you actively investing? So answer is no. Will you say your portfolio performance better than your non-finance peers? I would say there are a lot of people, a lot of my finance peers, even my finance peers, right? People who are smarter than me, they don't, emotionally, they are probably not as, convinced and they don't have much conviction in their investing. So some of them may be doing better, some of them may not. I don't really care, to be honest, because I think investment is a very personal experience, right? As long as we are convinced that whatever we are doing is right for us, we don't really have to look around our shoulders and see what other people are doing, right? As long as we can execute whatever we plan to do well, like seriously, we don't have to care what other people are doing. So what if someone is doing 20%, 30%, right? It's not, if we cannot execute it similarly, right, then it's not relevant. That's all I have to say. Yeah. Rui Ming, what's your take?
Yeah, so really like investing is like a religion. You have to like hardcore stick to your guns. That's just it. It's that simple. But yeah, like I said, simple doesn't mean easy.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so the next question, I think is quite interesting, and it's something that we have internal debate about. Does Endowus have solutions for younger investors? I suppose they are talking about the $10,000 minimum sum. So we do acknowledge that the 10,000 sum is quite a fair amount for younger investors, right? So if you have that amount of money, please, I think in the first place, please make sure that you have your emergency funds in place, right? So that if anything happens, you know, you won't be liquidating your investments and yeah, at a loss, and you have a very poor experience. So do have your everything in place, your emergency fund, have a stable job, recurring income from your recurring savings from your job, and then we want our investors to put in that $10,000, but we are actually not that strict in terms of how long do they take for them to hit that $10,000. So normally we check in with them 3 to 6 months after they invested. Yeah. So yeah, that's a very specific question with Endowus. Okay, then there's one about, isn't investing in a US index because of the withholding dividend tax? So this one, just let me answer this. If you look specifically into all forms of all the dividend withholding tax arrangement, right? So every country, almost all countries have dividend will charge a dividend withholding tax, right? So I think the only exceptions, if I'm not wrong, is maybe Singapore and Hong Kong, and that is depending on certain tax treaties, right? So I'm talking from an angle of Singapore investors. So when you buy, you have Europe exposure, when you have US exposure, Canada exposure, Australia exposure, you will have to pay dividend withholding tax. It's just that people are fixated with the US dividend withholding tax. Yeah. Yeah, Remy.
Hey, there's a question here that's quite interesting. I mean, I'm sure pretty relevant to you. I mean, like, you know, Smartly, you know, shut down recently. So I mean, so this was, you know, previously to all like the newbie investors, right? I mean, this was quite like unthinkable, lah. So I think maybe you can clarify to your audience, you know, like whether like Endowus will ever be in a situation, or like what prevents this from happening for Endowus.
Okay.
So, I mean, because this is like a huge risk. I mean, the people that bought with Smartly, they were forced to liquidate their portfolios at like a loss, right? And yeah, it's a pretty serious issue.
Yeah, I think it's a very great question. I think if you were to go to Endowus Insights, Greg actually wrote a very comprehensive piece about it. But maybe in summary, what I would say is that the way we structure the holdings of your investments is very different from other platforms like Smartly and some of the other robo-advisors. So whatever investments that you buy through us is held in your own legal name, right? And it's you have access to it even if Endowus fails. So we have, okay, so there's two parts to it. One is how it's structured and how operationally we are protecting you as our investors, right? So so the first part about holding it in your legal name. So because the funds are not put together in a omnibus where all of the investors pool their money, right? So in the case that when Endowus fails, right, you will still be able to liquidate, hold on to your investments for as long as you want, because we have an arrangement with UOB Kay Hian, so that you know if you want to hold on to your investments, they will still be able to service you for anything that you need. Right, of course, it will be a different experience, but you can still hold on to your investment. So meaning to say you are not forced to liquidate your investment. Right, for other platforms, it's not the same because of the way they structure their investment, right? So you transfer money to another platform's to a business entity that is under the name of another platform, right? And this platform will invest on your behalf, and this platform actually pools everybody's money so that they can buy a fraction of an ETF, right? So that is a much riskier way of investing, and of course, everything is custodized and protected away from the startups' operational money, right? But in the end, when the startup, when the robo-advisor fail, what happens is that your investments have to be forced to be liquidated within a certain period of time, because ultimately that holding entity is owned by the robo-advisor. Yeah, so the risk profile is very, very different, right? We set up the company in a way to protect our investors, because we know no matter how much money our founders, we as employees put into the company, there is always a chance that something happen, and we want to invest in a way that we ourselves feel comfortable with, right? Despite us running the platform. Yeah, that's my answer for it. Not so short actually. Yeah.
It's quite long. Yeah. Hey, how about this? Like, what is your take on mandatory cash in CPF special account? Because it's 4% guaranteed, and you can also offset taxes if you put money in it.
Oh, you mean the 4% putting up the voluntary cash, the top up, right? The $7,000.
Yeah. What's your take on it?
I think it's something like buying a savings plan, and just that you are buying a very good savings plan that gives you a tax return. Your money is locked up for good. You are getting also a good investment, like get a 4% return for now, right? 4% for now. I think it's fine. It's if you are not comfortable with investing, managing your own money, that's great way of growing your wealth, right? But I just want to highlight that the 4% is not something that is guaranteed. I think all of us observe that the savings account rates have been dropping, right? Bond yield has been dropping. So it's not easy for CPF to, keep on giving that 4% if everybody just decide to pump money into CPF SA and get a 4%. Right? I think if interest rate drop, and for us to be able, as a society collectively, to able to sustain CPF, if we have to take a lower SA rate, then that's something that we have to bear as a society. So it can work, but it really depends on your own investment experience as well. Because if you were to invest the money, are you comfortable with investing or not? Right? If you're not, then maybe you can put that money in, and you on the side you learn how to invest. Yeah.
So I mean, about your last point, I think that's a really good thing. I mean, that just because we are passive investors today, right, doesn't mean we need to stay passive investors. Like, while passive investing and waiting for your cap to grow up to 500 grand, right, or like 1 million, right, you could actually go and learn investing courses, which is what I'm doing at the moment. Although I haven't reached 500 grand, but I attended like investment courses by Dr. Wealth. Probably be going to some more next year if the virus subsides. So it's whether you're a passive investor or active investor, like it doesn't need to be a permanent thing. Just think of it as like a season of life you're in. Maybe this is the season, 20 to 30s passive investor, and then 40s to 50s active investor. So there's no need to tag your identity to how you invest, because that's just crazy. It's just probably unhealthy also.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, there's one more question. Maybe let's leave this as the last question because it's getting a bit late. If I have saved up 50K and want to enter the market now, would you recommend investing 38K at once, being a beginner, or invest less cost beginner only? This one, I think it's a question that we have to have that conversation with ourselves, right? So let's say, I think the recent market crash with COVID is a good way that we can train ourselves mentally, right? We run through that scenario in our head, because for me, I always believe that we are subservient to the market, right? We cannot really control what happens to the market as much as we want to. So if, let's say, for example, that 38K that you have invested in, if that amount dropped by 20 or 30%, which is what we observe, how would you feel? Will you liquidate your investments immediately and just hold in cash because you are so scared of losing more of your money? Or would you just carry on holding on to it? So I think that's you can literally look at the drop in the market and ask yourself, if the market dropped 5K, how would I feel about it? If it dropped 10K, how would I feel about it? And that should give you a sense of your risk appetite. And which is why on our platform, there's a very simple risk question that we ask people, but it's something that, if they were to really run it through their head, they'll have a very good understanding of their own risk appetite, right? So we ask our investors, how much risk can you take in 1 year? If you are going to be uncomfortable taking more than 30% risk, then maybe a 60-40 portfolio will work best for you, for example, right? So do try our platform, try out what's your risk appetite. Then you will also roughly understand how much you should invest, and also how much equities and bonds you should have. Yeah, so let me run back to the slides. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, key takeaways for today's session. Focus on your human capital, diversify, be disciplined, invest in a low-cost manner, right? Yeah, that's all for today. Yeah, I think one of the favorite quotes, one of my favorite investors out there, Jack Bogle, he made this very important thing that I don't think people really understand. Investing is not nearly as difficult as it looks. Successful investing involves doing a few things right and avoiding serious mistakes. And that's really what we are trying to do with passive investing, right? Getting the big blocks of good financial planning in place, uh, being consistent, right? And also what Rui Ming says, simple, it doesn't mean easy. Right? That just because you can just buy into one fund doesn't mean that it's really easy for you to do it emotionally. And guys, maybe just one last thing as young people, right? We have so much more new investment options out there, right? There's cryptocurrency, there's peer-to-peer lending, but really, I think index investing is something that has gone through the test of time, right? It's something the markets have been working for very, very long, right? And now we have access to low-cost funds, be it through endowers or be it through UCITS funds such as UCITS funds on London Stock Exchange, right? So do consider investing in a way that is that will help you that assurance and conviction in your investing, so that you remain invested and you can focus on your human capital. Yeah, Rui Ming, anything else to add on?
Exactly. I think you just say what I want to say.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, guys, thank you for listening to this very long session. I think we overrun by about 30 minutes. So last time I think I'll just keep it as that. Do check the links below. Check the links below. Give us a feedback. Sign up for our future sessions. Happy to talk more with you guys. I'll be sending an email to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
See you.